Hello, my friends, and welcome to You Normal. In a world where the things that feel like they are out of alignment with you, and we're often told that it is completely normal, this is the space that I journey and have conversations with friends about how they have gone on maybe a pursuit of their own normal, what feels right to them. And this is an invitation for you to lean in, listen, and maybe rediscover what is normal for you. I am your host, Robina Bennion, and today my guest is none other than Sarah Elliott. I'm a little bit excited, can you tell? I have known Sarah for a couple of years now. I met you, Sarah. I don't want to act like you're not here. I met you, Sarah, when I was on the kind of the beginning journeys of forming my own business and forever grateful. And I'm sure that we will talk about that today. But this is going to be a kind of sit down on the couch with our favorite beverage conversation. And you all will get to know Sarah. Sarah is the founder of Elevate Alliance, which is how I met Sarah. But she is also the co founder of Intend to Lead. Both of these we'll dive in further. And Elevate Alliance, we'll talk about and how it supports women in building their businesses and their dreams. And it ties into possibly doubts and dreams that we're going to be covering today. And then we'll share about Intend to Lead and how the two are interrelated, if you will. So, welcome to all of you and welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Robina. I'm so excited to be here and with you, one of my dearest. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, before we get going, I do want to just give people a little bit of background about you. I could talk about Elevate Alliance. I have in a few of these sessions, but I would love for you to just share anything that's on your heart about Elevate and Intend to Lead, and maybe just more like what drew you to create both of these beautiful environments for people to show up in and find their own new normal.
I love that question. It's outside the standard, right? So maybe I'll start with why I created them. And it's really about my personal mission in life, my purpose, which it's taken me a while to figure this out. Okay, so I'm going to say it as if I knew it all along, but I did not. So my personal mission is to bring forth a more conscious, evolved form of leadership to the world. And that is something that I humbly do through myself, right? So I'm always working on myself, and I'm honored to hold space to help others do that same thing. So Elevate, we are a community of brave women entrepreneurs who channel our feminine wisdom to run our businesses, create social change, and find joy in who we are and what we do. And Intend to Lead is a leadership development company that coaches accountants to access the dimension of possible. We do that through leadership coaching, group learning, and consulting with organizations to create coaching culture. So coaching, I'm a coach at my heart. I am a formally trained professional coach, but also just, I think my soul is that coach soul. And coaching is really that common thread, and it's cultivating leaders, right? To me, it's all the same. And I would say for me, it's very much a deep spiritual journey, a personal journey. And I am so honored and grateful every day to be able to be on this journey with the people I serve, right? We're all in it together. So every day I get to learn and grow alongside the people that I get to support.
Yeah. Yeah, and what a sacred space to be in with people, right? And I have been on the receiving end of it as part of Elevate, and know firsthand that your mission really does. I don't know. It's woven into everything that you create, at least on the way that I experience it, and know that 100% you stand behind that and beside it, right? But also that journey that we're always walking through in our own way to get where it is that we're going, right? It evolves all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I mean, that is conscious leadership is, I think it's being willing to go into the unknown, not
Mhm.
knowing. There's a real vulnerability in it. And to be able, like, I know that that's the space that we get to share together through Elevate, is this very vulnerable, real space where we get to talk about the things that matter. We get to look at ourselves and our businesses in a different way. It's questioning, well, there's so many shoulds out there about what we think we're supposed to do when it comes to running a business or being a leader or being a parent or anything, right?
Right.
And it's really inviting us to look within and say, what really matters to me? How can I tap into my own wisdom and find my own way? Because when each of us does that, like, that's what we're meant to do. That's what elevates everybody. That's what expands consciousness. It's not doing it the way someone else does it.
Yeah. Well, and my own personal journey with this, and of the following everybody else's way, if you will, right? Like I've shared with you, I've shared in Elevate, I've shared as the years have gone about, as I entered into the profession, I kind of did things my own way. I brought my own unique spin to it, maybe even my little headstrongness, this youngness, right? The naive piece of me to what I was creating. And then as I evolved, I got deeper into the profession. I kept morphing into what it was that I was perceiving that I was supposed to be, but there was still this internal part of me that kept pushing up against that like, no, this doesn't feel right. This isn't what I want to do. But eventually it's kind of like I just kept morphing, and I started dreaming less and less and trying to be what it is that I thought that I should be versus what it was that was really calling to me to be. And then when I stepped outside of that career and said, I want to go in a different direction, I want to follow my heart, I want to create something different. But I was paralyzed with what that even was. And I shared in some of the posts, but when I started in Elevate, you talk about the dream muscle.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, the thought of even dreaming was like, I just can't do it. Like, I don't know what I want to do. And that was kind of the place where I was paralyzed for a while. And the doubts came in. Like, okay, I'm going to go out on my own, but what am I going to do? All I've ever done is accounting. Who's going to hire me for anything else? So maybe we could talk about the dream muscle, how your muscle has gotten stronger over the years, right? Because
Yeah.
I envision, the guy that pulls the semi with his whiskers. I feel like at this point, Sarah's like got her little whiskers and she's pulling all these dreams.
That's what, I actually don't know what you're talking about, but I have a visual, and that is
The muscle
awesome.
man where they got the long
Oh,
whiskers
yeah,
and
yeah, like the handlebar mustache. Okay, sorry, I'm laughing about that. Okay, what's your question?
Well, I'm sure your dream muscle has evolved over time. And maybe even talk about dream muscle because we talk
Yeah.
about that in Elevate, right? But
Mhm.
how it has evolved over time and how your life has transformed because you're making it a part of the process again. And I don't know, I'm going to assume that maybe you were like me, that as you got into your accounting career, that fell to the side and you had to relearn how to play and have fun and play, like you're saying, even in intent to lead, right? The dimension of possible, is that what you just said? Or
Yeah.
impossible?
Oh, it's possible. It's all possible. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So your assumption is correct. Years ago, I did feel that same way that you did. Dreaming, what is that? How do I do it? And I want to acknowledge that that's very natural for many of us, because it
Mhm.
does feel like when we grow up in this world, in this society, it's just all drained out of us. We're taught to be
Mhm.
responsible, and right, all the shoulds start piling on us, and we begin to learn, the right ways of being and doing. And so I think we lose touch with that beautiful child inside of us, right? That
Mhm.
wonder, that joy, that playfulness that you said, right? And maybe people who love us so much in our life when we were growing up were afraid for us to have dreams, right? Because when we really love someone, sometimes we're afraid, well, what if that can't be true for Robina, right? So I need to tamp that down. I need to get her to be more practical. And again, that's done from a place of love, but it does dim that gift that I think we are all born with. So I'll say, same story for me, very similar things. I was very fortunate to cross paths with John Henry MacDonald, one of my mentors and friends. We crossed paths, I think it was 2013. And he's this incredible human. And if anyone's interested, you can check. He has his own website, johnhenrymcdonald.com, I think. And he blogs. And he does something that I call the 21-day vision quest every year. He's been doing this since the 1980s. And he's just brought forth amazing things in his life. And, when people ask him, so for context, who he is, he founded a wealth management firm here in Austin, Texas called Austin Asset Management. It's very well known, great reputation, and he is a millionaire. But where he comes from are humble beginnings. And there were moments in his life. He was returning from the Vietnam War. There were moments when he suffered with substance abuse, various kinds of substance abuse. He found himself homeless for a time. And look at what he's done through his life. And so when people ask him, how did you do it? How did you do it? He says, here, let me show you. And he did the same thing with me. He took me to lunch. He had this book of these pictures that he had cut out of magazines. And they're just these amazing pictures. And he was telling the story, oh yeah, I cut this out then. And now look, this is what happened. And that may sound like this wild story, but it's true. And it's his experience. So he inspired me. I said, okay, I got to try this thing. I was skeptical like you, Robina, right? I grew up as a CPA. I was an auditor. So my job was to check everything and have professional skepticism, right? So he's telling me something. I'm like, this is wild. So I tried it. And when I first did it, and again, I think it was 2013 or 14. I've actually lost count. I was like, I don't know how to do this. So I was trying to write things down. I like bullet points. Because again, did I mention I'm a CPA? So I like organization. So I'm like bullet pointing my dreams. And it was kind of like, it was awkward. And the point of doing it for 21 days, by the way, the reason John Henry talks about this, he talks about the dreaming muscle. And that just like anything, we need exercise, right? We need the resistance. So when you bump up against that resistance, that's okay. Just keep going anyway, right? See if we can stretch beyond the limits of our imagination. As he says, it's about what's possible, not what's probable, because the brain is always halting us, right? And saying, nope, that's not possible, right? We think of 20 reasons why we can't do it. Or the brain is saying, I don't see the path to that, so let's not go there. But the beauty is when you really give yourself that space to expand that dreaming muscle, right? To work it out, you can stretch bit by bit. So that's how it's been for me as I went from eking out a few bullet points with pain over 21 days to now it's like, I mean, honestly, I still do the 21-day vision quest to support our Elevate women. We'll do that together a lot every year near the end of the year to dream and come up with our intentions for the new year. But now I find that I don't really need it the way I used to. I actually like to dream more broadly. I like to think about the essence of what I want. I really love to be surprised. So I like to let things unfold in ways that I wouldn't expect. But yeah, there was actually, I want to say, Robina, I was taking a look back at your book earlier today, right? I mean, you talk about dreaming so beautifully in your book. And so I went to this dreams chapter, and what you said here was dreams are not a one-day thing. Dreams are an everyday thing. And that's such a beautiful, simple way to sum it up. It's not some once a year vision quest I go on. It's what's possible here in this moment. What excites me? Where am I tapping into joy? What am I feeling and seeing? And I'm not even attached to those dreams. It's just like, oh, that's fun. Let's just see, and then I move on to the next thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much in there that you said that I want to dive into each of them, but there's a couple things I will. So the part of where we come up to that resistance, that I feel like is where the doubt kicks in, right? Like, oh, then we start to doubt ourselves. But that mind chatter, if you will, it can also be that, like you were talking about at the beginning, we were taught when we were little by the people who were caring for us or helping us to grow and learn that it's not safe. So then there's that, your automatic immune system of the brain kicks in and says, oh wait, this isn't safe, don't go there,
Yeah.
right? No dreaming allowed. And we tend to back off from it. And at least that's the case that of what I found for me. And as you were sharing that, when we're little, right, we're looking at picture books. So here he's sharing you this picture book. And at night, I used to read my kids' picture books all the time. And then we evolve into, it's all black and white. Oh, well, there's a picture in this one. So that book that you were holding up is like, how much color can I put in here? As someone who lived in the world of audited financial statements and tax returns, like, I don't want this to be black and white if I can help it at any place in there, so that it opens up the mind.
Yes.
Because like you said, in that vision quest, when I did it for the first time, I was kind of like you. I'm like, oh, I'll make my checklist. We're talking about goals, right? I'll write those down. But by the time I finished, what I created was like, wow, right? It was just, it blew my mind that was in there in me. And like you now, I'll just sit down and write and I don't even think about it. It just flows.
Well, and I just want to jump in here real quick and acknowledge you, because you're amazing, Robina. Like, you have such creativity and you're so connected to yourself. And that's what I noticed in you. I remember that first vision quest and how it opened you up. But the thing was, you were open to it, right? You were ready to expand and you leaned into that. And I remember, right, you were cutting out magazine pictures and words, and you were making journals and you were giving them away to us, and you sent me one and I still have it and I still use it. So that's beautiful. So I say, that's a gift that you have, and something that some of us need to cultivate more, right? Maybe if that doesn't happen for you, if you're like, this still feels awkward and weird, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. But yeah, can you lean more into that with an openness?
Yeah. Yeah. And the pictures came from just like, I showed up and I was like, I have nothing to write. I was blocked. It was kind of like that paralysis. And I knew that I was part of this 21-day vision quest. And so I just said, okay, well, I'll cut out pictures. And I just listened to the pictures and who wanted to be cut out or what wanted to be cut out. And I just started gluing it on the page. And at the end, they had a similar feel to them. So while there weren't words that told a story, for me and the images, they told a story. And then it evolved from there. And I think that that's what this whole dreaming process, and even in spite of the doubts, has done for me, is to just trust what comes up, and it will tell its own story at the end. And I don't have to understand it, but just put it out there and it will turn into something if it's meant to, right? I think just getting that creativity out on the page sometime is that's the success of it all, is just putting it out there.
Yes, there's what you said there is really important. So I just want to highlight it. I think there's a releasing of attachment to, if I put this dream on paper or something, that means I have to go do something, or it has to come. And if it doesn't, I failed, or right. No, it's do it for the fun of it, for the joy of expression, and let it just be that. Right. And then it may happen, it may not. Does it really matter?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think part of it that you shared that quote, it's not a one-day thing, it's an everyday thing, because people will say, one day when I win the lottery, one day when I retire, one day. And as I sat there and I thought about it, I'm like, no, we are dreaming every day. For me, I say we call them goals now. I may call them goals, but they really are dreams. And it's like we've become, as a society, I feel maybe detached from really the power of our dreams. Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, if I can have a dream and remember exactly what my high school looked like and recreate the people and conversations in a dream at night, Like, how powerful are our minds really, right? And so I had shared this with you, but one of the things I'm going to share is I went and I looked up, we were talking about doubt as well, right? Not just dreams, but doubt, and the
Mhm.
doubt that keeps us from doing it. And jokingly in conversation, as we were discussing this, talking about, the leprechauns moving the rainbow and the way that, our dreams are always moving, so we can't obtain them. But I went and I looked up the definition of doubt, and it's defined as uncertainty or lack of conviction. And then dreams is defined as either something we do in our sleep or a cherished aspiration, ambition, or ideal. So, by those very definitions, it sounds like it's so undefined. So, how can we even have conviction over an aspiration or an ideal or an ambition? And to me, it's kind of like, they're not even distant cousins, they're twins. And, you got,
Mhm.
leave your eyebrows, right? You got doubt over here and dream over here, and they're trying to move independently. But again, like, of course, the doubt would be there if there's something that, I want to say society has defined as being this mystical, illusionary thing, and that it's not really tangible.
Mhm.
So, I know that's a little kind of maybe out there as far as not necessarily a question, but how do you support people, say through Elevate or yourself, as you're in this space of doubt, this uncertainty in the face of something that also is unknown?
Yeah. Okay, so you brought up something that to me feels like a paradox. And I think that's what's so hard in our world is our brain, like, I don't know what to do with paradoxes, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to say, what if doubts are not actually a problem? What if doubts do not get in the way of dreams? What if they work together in some way?
Mhm.
And so what I'll say is, right, you said dreams kind of they feel like this esoteric, aspirational, far out thing.
Mhm.
And then doubts probably feel like, okay, but we live in a very physical world, this reality that we've created. I mean, both are essentially true in some way. So I wonder if sometimes, we can almost lean into the doubt, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But maybe doubt is there to give us some valuable information. What if
Mhm.
the doubt is actually a gift? So, for example, we talked about dreaming our muscles and we need resistance to work them out. So maybe the doubt is part of that. It's giving us a workout.
Mhm.
The doubt is also an indicator that this matters to me. This is important. And this is kind of getting me to the edge of where I currently am.
Mhm.
Great, valuable information. It doesn't mean you need to like throw that out the window and slam through it and keep going, right? Maybe it means, hey, let's proceed with thoughtfulness, right? And
Mhm.
how do I want to approach this? And, for me, I've noticed that my doubts, they're usually trying to tell me something. There's something, you said also you've connected doubt with fear. So, yeah, fear doesn't have to be the enemy. Doubt doesn't have to be the
Mhm.
enemy. I think when we resist it in that way, it's kind of a not good resistance. It's not really helping us work the dreaming muscles out. We're actually
Right.
kind of getting jammed up. But, for me, my doubts can tell me something valuable. Okay, there's something I'm afraid of here. There's a concern that I have. So, one of the doubts that comes up for me often these days is, am I taking on too much? Am I doing too much? Because I have lots of dreams. I have lots of ideas and things that I get excited about. And those are all beautiful things. But you know what, Robina? If I was just like, yeah, they're all possible, and let me just do that, I would, I probably wouldn't be able to show up here in this way with you today. I'd be like laying on the
Right.
floor, exhausted, and I couldn't really show up as the mother I want to be, right? So I'm still a human living in this human reality, and I can have these spiritual, beautiful dreams. And like, how can I kind of dance along that edge of where the
Mhm.
doubt is and kind of examine the doubts and say, what's that about? Okay, cool. That's information for me. That's a gift. And then how might I kind of dance around it or through it in a way that feels good? right?
Yeah.
Because dreams don't always have to be this massive thing that we're just reaching for the stars, you know? And I mean, I think we also
Mhm.
get a lot of that messaging that's like, oh, well, am I not dreaming big enough? Am I not good enough? So like maybe we
Right.
can just be where we are and enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Sarah, that questioning of the doubts is probably even more important in some cases, like as than the dream. Because that doubt, the fear, however you define it, the thing that pulls you back, right? The stretchy band I was envisioning, like, those, pulling it out and pulling you back is actually the way forward. Because if I personally, I have learned, if I ignore those doubts, if I don't ask what is this here for,
Mhm.
what is it wanting to teach me, then if I just charge forward, sooner or later that doubt or false belief, it's going to show up, right? It's what you resist will persist kind of thing. And if I ask the questions early on, then I'm more prepared for it down the road, and it can actually help me move further into what it is that I want to create if that's where I'm supposed to go. So I think those doubts are really powerful to the process. And it's like you think yin and yang, black and white, right? There's always the other side to everything. So maybe, the doubt is the flip side of the coin to dreams
Yeah.
and getting curious, right? So in that, so there's this book that I have been sharing with you. It's a beautiful book. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's called Belonging. I'll put it in the chat and share. Remembering Ourselves Home, and it's by Toko Pa Turner. And this was shared with me with my mentor. And there's a few things in here that I would love to kind of talk about with you, because it was just so as if by magic. It's so aligned with where we are. I'm going to put my glasses on because I want to be able to read. But here's one of them. So just talking about taking a risk. So in the book, what she shares is about this, like you're talking about when we're young, we're taught to, no, that's not okay. It's not safe. And we start modifying ourselves in order to fit in, to belong. We're looking for places to belong. And as we go along, we start to kind of, if you will, like chop off pieces of who we are, right? In order to fit a square peg in a round hole, you have to shave some pieces off.
Mhm.
And so there's this false belonging that happens. Eventually, though, you're going to want to, like, that soul is going to call you. As I say, I believe every person has a moment when their soul will no longer be denied. Your soul calls you to move forward, but now you have to step out of this group that you belonged to, right? That false belonging. And she talks a little bit about this in the book of kind of stepping out. And since you support women and Elevate Alliance and building their dreams, I thought that this was a really, I don't know, wonderful nugget to share and talk about. Okay. So she says that in talking about leaving these false groups, define acceptability by following your star is a huge risk, because we know, even if unconsciously, that stepping out of a false belonging means taking on the responsibility of leadership and independence. And she says this can't be underestimated. As any entrepreneur or single moms knows, defiance means stepping out of the usual support systems, flawed as they may be, and doing it all yourself, or at least for a time. Like moving from a corporate job to an independent profession, we must do far more than just be creative. We have to generate the entire structure in which our offering is presented and delivered, requiring a whole arsenal of skills that may not come to us naturally. And it can apply to other relationships that we're in. And this is I think the biggest part of where that doubt can show up. We are sacrificing outside support for our own inner resources, trembling as they may be. The toll for leaving false belonging can be great. And that just kind of brings some tears to my
Oh,
eyes.
yeah, that makes,
Emotional.
it does it. Why is it making you emotional?
I think just the resonance of it, right? That I think in twofold. I think my soul just knows that it's true. right? I've been there, but also that place of I'm leaving the safety and security of what I have created, but knowing it's not the best place for me, right? But like I'm there at my will, but now I'm willingly leaving the safety of that. And that's really stepping into the frontier of the unknown, but choosing yourself over the other, right? Which is so powerful and magical. There's just so much in there. So much in there.
Yeah, it's choosing the true self over that false self, right? That you've contorted to be whoever you think you need to be to belong, right? What a powerful concept, false belonging. It made me sad to hear those words too, Robina, because there's this sense of loss. There's also, it's inspiring. There's this courage, this bravery, right? And stepping into the unknown and having that faith. And then I'm also sitting here saying, but no, you don't have to do that alone, right? And that's why Elevate is so important. This vision, this mission that we have to activate and amplify feminine power so that we can co-create a collective future. It is also because we're so trained to say, it's you, everything is on you. You've got to know how to do all these things. And we have the doubts about, but I've never done this before. I mean, Robina, I know we both came from backgrounds, business backgrounds for many years. We're leaders in organizations and things, but yet when you're out there starting a small business from scratch on your own, I don't know about you. I think I do know about you because we've talked about it. But I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And the more, but yet there's all this pressure, the shoulds again, that you're supposed to look like you know what you're doing because you're a business owner and no one's going to buy anything from you if you look like you don't know what you're doing, right? But once I started saying those words out loud to other women business owners, it was like we found each other, because I think we were floating around kind of in this scary place of doubt, wondering, am I supposed to be here? Is this normal? And then we start seeing each other and really being seen. And there's this, like, I don't have to know it all. Yes, I'm honoring myself. I'm being resourceful. I'm calling forth greatness from myself in new ways. And I also feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, we can hold both those things too. And we can know that, wow, when I am in community with other people that are doing these brave things and really kind of on the leading edge of this journey, when we're doing things that most people will never do, we can find each other and know we're not going to do it all the same way, and we shouldn't, but to be able to support each other and be real in those moments of doubt and realize, I mean, I'm sure you've heard the statistics, something like most businesses, small businesses fail or people give up after about a year and a half. What I found in my business was, I see how that could happen because I wasn't making any money at that point. But it wasn't until like really 3 years where I felt like I was hitting a stride. And I was like, this is working. I kind of know what I'm doing now. But like, no one talks about that. No one told me that except these women, right? That I get to surround myself with. So we're in it together. We believe in each other. We believe in ourselves. And we kind of cultivate that space where it feels you're not alone in the unknown. And that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think of it, there's a song, I can't think of it right now, and it's the trapeze artist, right? And you're in the air and you have to let go of one to grasp the other. And so there is that point, I remember, where I said, okay, I'm going to transition out of this profession that, by the way, was providing very well for my lifestyle and my home and my family, into this unknown, right? So there was that precarious point in between where it was like I was letting go of one bar so that I could grab onto the other bar, right? Like, or some people may say it's the hallway when you go out one door and you're standing in this hallway. So that is where you feel like it's all on you, but then being intentional about what bar I grab onto next, right? And you and I talked in the beginning about, even I had that same thing, is like, Where's the places? Where are the women? How do we support each other? It can't be this competitive, like it's all mine. I'm going to keep it secret. There has to be other women out there. And how do we support each other with the resources that we have? Because you and I may know accounting, but somebody else knows marketing and legal and social and all of these other aspects that are important. But most importantly, having the conversations about, oh yeah, me too. And, and I've shared often about the time that I showed up and I just lost it. I started crying. I was in full doubt and fear of everything. And luckily, one of the things that I had was my emergency plan that I created during the Vision Quest. And it took me like 6 days, but it was, how do I tend to myself in all these areas that we covered when things go wrong? And writing from that place. But at the time, I was great and high spirits and everything. So, yes, having that space to show up and be honest and vulnerable and real, but also supportive. There's so many people in the world. Like, I'll share with you, right? Of course I will, if it helps your business. And that, I feel like, is what Elevate has provided for me, at least, is the space to show up.
Yeah. And Robina, you show up fully to everything. And I remember that moment, right? When you broke down, and we all have those moments to be able to show up fully, whatever it looks like, and to be held and supported and seen and right and not fixed, because there's this desire in the world that, like, oh, we got to fix things for people. No, to just be there and allow that with love, like, that's belonging in my mind and heart, right? It's that sense of belonging and connection, and we can provide that space at Elevate. And I think it's this gift that, like, I can't explain it or how we do it. It's there, but it's also because our women meet us in that place, right? Because we choose to show up as we are. And that's when it's so powerful. That's when we create that belonging with one another.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like in that space, and even going back to that moment for me, is I was believing something to be true in the moment, right? I became very tunnel visioned on one thing that felt like it was so real in the moment, instead of taking a bigger, like a wider view, which is what that provided me by showing up and, talking about the intangible, the aspirations, our dreams. And I remember one of the things that brought me kind of back into my body, if you will, the truth of what I was creating, is someone held up a card that I had sent them. And it said, look, I have this on my desk. And it was the images that I create. And people were like, yeah, me too. And then someone reached out like, hey, if you need support. But it was, yeah, there you go. See, it was like, oh, I actually have put something out there in the world, right? When we're in our own when I'm in my own business, it's just me. And it was easy for me to believe that I was making no difference in the world, that what I had done didn't matter, right? And I think that leads back to like what you were saying of, oh, I wasn't making money in the first 3 years. And again, in this book, it talks about it, that I do, is also unattaching from my worth. And so when I started my business, I actually really didn't know my worth because I had shut it off for so long. And so now I've been kind of, turning on the faucet more and more to really embracing my worth and understanding that maybe what it is that I am creating isn't as tangible as a big fat tax return, right? So like even yesterday, I was on a call with my, my accountability buddy, just being of support and just doodling. And I came up with something creative, right?
Oh, Mariette, I see her in that. Yeah. Well, and I mean, look at the tangible thing. Look behind you, right? I'm looking at these beautiful images that's what just like blows my mind in the best way. I think of that moment when you and I met. I remember having a conversation and just like getting chills and the energy down my legs. That's always, I don't know why it's my legs or whatever, but it always means something is important. And then, fast forwarding, and then you're sending me beautiful pictures that you're painting and writing. You send me these cards in your notebook. And it's like, I see the things that you're doing and how you're evolving. And you just have this gift, Robina. I marvel at your in tuneness with yourself and your ability to keep going deeper, and right, it's as well. It's never ending, and it's just like, just so you know, I marvel. And I'm like, why can't, and I'll say, and then I have these moments, well, like, why can't I do things like that? Am I
Right.
going deep enough? Right. So even those, the comparison, the judgment mind will creep in and be like, well, I want to be more like Robina, and then to say, oh, okay, I see you. That's not true, right? That gets in
Right.
the way of belonging and connection, and that's not the truth. The truth is your beautiful self, and I'm my beautiful self, and we're different, and we're doing different things, and how wonderful that we are, and we never have to compare. And I can say that right
Exactly.
now, but I also know, how often do we just do that because we're so trained to do it?
Yeah. Well, it was, we both grew up in a career that it was, oh, who has how many charge hours, what clients, how
Oh,
many
always
dollars are you
measuring. I
managing?
mean, literally measuring everything.
Yeah, getting review notes, who got the office first. I mean, there was so much competitiveness in this, and I would say for someone who was young and had kind of that part of me, like I wanted to do well, right? I wanted to, excel at what I was doing. Eventually became my detriment. So of course there's that comparison model, and I will say it has, it's not always there. It takes time. The way that it has evolved has been slow. There's things where I do the same thing. I can look at you and I can look at other people. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that. My business isn't doing that. I have, oh, and I could start judging. And then I just take a step back and be like, but actually, like, what I am doing is what is in alignment with me, right? Like, they're creating their business in their way. And that's not my path, right? Or else I would be
Mhm,
named Sarah Elliott.
mhm,
So it is, I think it's a constant journey. It's not an easy path for me. It's kind of rewiring that brain to think differently and to support me in different ways. And I think most importantly to know it is safe what I'm doing, right? Because there for so long I was like, being a CPA is safe. This is what I'm supposed to do. And walking away from that, then it's like, oh, I'm leaving my safety net. And then it's, oh, I have to depend upon me, right? I
mhm.
lived so long kind of looking at everything outside of me, and now it's all on me. And that part of me that would compartmentalize and conform and morph to belong in this false belonging, if you will, to be what I thought I was supposed to be. Now I'm actually like, I have this, like, when you pull out your raft out of the box for the first time and you have to inflate it, and it's kind of like, I'm inflating who I am and what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
no one's really going to know until I fully like expand it to see what it is I've been hiding crumpled up in that box for so long,
Yeah,
right?
and, like, as you're inflating it, sometimes it looks really wonky and weird and right? Beautiful, right? Yeah, we don't know what it'll look like when it's fully done, and are we ever really done? Like, that's the question. I don't think so, right? So,
No.
who knows, maybe what'll happen after the raft is full, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so following that, obviously we're talking about elevate, there's intend to lead. I know that you had that kind of same thing of leaving the CPA container as it was. I mean, you definitely serve the industry in a different way now. But as you were in that beginning stage, like you said, like it took 3 years to really pick up traction. When you started even elevate, what was it that you thought that it would look like, and now where has it evolved to that maybe you didn't cut out a picture for that, it just showed up on its own?
Oh, that's such a good question. And you're taking me back because the journey when I first left the accounting profession, being in it, it was 2014, and I started my own business, and it was the first version of Elevate. Okay, so it was Elevate Advisors. And I remember I had this branding and I worked with people on my website and my brand and all these things. And even then, it's funny, I'll look back at that brand. I mean, I don't really see it very often because it doesn't really exist out there in the world. But when I look at the old logo, I laugh because it just doesn't even look like something I would do, right? Because I was still kind of in this, well, it needs to please the audience. And if I'm serving the accounting profession, which I wasn't even sure how I was serving at the time, I was some sort of consultant in the people space, talent development. But I was always focused on what will they want to see, what will appeal to them, my audience, right? And which, I mean, I'm not knocking that. We want to have empathy. We want to think about that. But I was so overly concerned about appealing to people that now I laugh and I'm like, I wouldn't even want to work with those people. I'm not saying accountants, but like a particular type. I was trying to appeal to everybody, or some traditional sense. And so anyway, so I started out Elevate. I had my son, went back to school to become a coach. So that evolved. And so all these things are changing within me. Then in 2015, I meet Brian Cush, my amazing business partner of Intend to Lead. And he and I hit it off. We had ideas. And, you know, our initial vision for Intend to Lead, we created Intend to Lead, the name and the logo, for a joint leadership development program for the accounting profession. So what brought us together was this dream of, let's make this really amazing, year-long, transformative program for leaders in the accounting profession. And so we started, everything was around that. We mapped out the program. We set up the website. We created an LLC. We started having all these calls with people. And then what actually evolved, what showed up was an incredible client who said, we want to create coaches within our organization who are actually accounting professionals and people who support the firm, right? The internal firm services group. Can you help us with that? So that showed up. We were not expecting that. And then we loved it. And then we started saying, we actually scrapped that initial idea. We still haven't done that program, by the way, that brought us together. And we started saying, wow, well, we love to do this. Can we partner with organizations to create coaching cultures, right? We can do that in so many different ways. And of course, I got my coaching certification, leaned into that, did more coaching. And so that really morphed. And so then go back to Elevate, remember Elevate Advisors that I had started, I just kind of let that go dormant because all the energy and attention was on Intend to Lead, you know, leaning into that, evolving that. But then when was it? It was late 2016. I was doing my vision quest, my 21-day vision quest. And what came up at the end of that year was this word purpose. I wanted clarity of purpose because again, I was like doing these things that felt good. And it was so wild. It was, I remember I was asleep in the middle of the night and my son woke me up because I don't know, he was only maybe 2 then. And I just had this vision for Elevate, right? This idea of a community of women business owners coming together in a very real way, supporting each other, learning from each other, accelerating each other's growth, because that had helped me on my journey. And then Elevate was rebranded as Elevate Alliance. And then that was born on my 40th birthday in March of 2017. So I could go on and on because we keep evolving, right? We keep evolving Elevate. It's this tuning in to where we are, where our women are at, what feels right, like where are we and what are we ready for? So there are still parts of the Elevate vision that I have and that I hold, but I've learned to not rush because I was rushing. Like I was on fire in 2017 and I actually fell and hurt my knee. And at the launch party, I was limping around on one leg. Thankfully, I'm fine now. But you know, I learned we have our whole lives, our whole careers ahead of us. What's the rush? And that's the beauty. Can we dream and still kind of hold it and let it evolve and let it grow and kind of feel what our directions are, like what feels right now. And maybe it's letting go of some of the things we thought we wanted and being open to the, in the 21-day vision quest language, we call it OSEB, or something even better. Right? What if there's something even better for us? So yeah, it's been a joy, a pleasure, and scary too, and hard at times, right? It doesn't mean it's always easy, but I'm just grateful every day to still be in it and growing because that's what I want. If I know if I'm going to stay right here where I am forever, no thanks. Don't get me wrong. I love it here. I love what I do. I'm very grateful every day, but I also want to see where are we going? Where could this go?
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so beautiful about it. I think that's the thing that also when, um, whether, those doubts come in, I will say, is that forgetting that nothing is meant to remain as it is, right? There's very few, I mean, there's things that you can create, right? But even that deteriorates over time, right? Anything that's in existence can deteriorate. And so the expectation that our business, our relationships, marriages, jobs, career, children, anything, that we're interacting with is going to stay the same is a false belief, right? And so knowing that our business is going to evolve, if it's a business that what we set out to create changes, because I'm the same. I could go back and look at the logos and the names and everything that I created for my business, how it's changed, even how I refer to myself and my language. It will change and evolve as we do. And it's kind of that opening of the door, the dream muscle, right? The more that we dream, it expands our view, the more that we see the possibility that can be created. And it takes me back to, I heard this quote once. It's like, something along the lines of, what are you forcing to bloom when it's meant to bear fruit? Right. So it's almost like, what are you wanting to be a flower when what it's actually meant to create is fruit? And I love that because it's just that patience. And I don't walk out there and look at my garden, for example, and the flowers and start doubting that is the flower going to show up this year? It just does. And I don't judge it for what appears on the stem, right? So I think leaning into that in our business and just giving ourselves some grace. That you jokingly going back to the rainbow that keeps moving, the pot of gold, right? This elusive pot of gold that keeps moving is sometimes I'm the one that's just kind of kicking it. I get close to it and I go to bend down and I kick it and got to go a little bit further. Right? And then
Oh,
I'm like, where's that dang rainbow?
where did it go?
Yeah.
Well, but there's isn't that interesting that there's this idea that we're supposed to get somewhere, the end of the rainbow, whatever that is. But there is such joy and just goodness in the anticipation, in the expectation, in the now, in the living it. So it's like, instead of chasing it, and it's so funny because I actually, one of the pictures behind me says chase your dreams, and it's like, yeah, chase your dreams because it's fun, not because like you think you're gonna get them. Right? Chase the rainbow because it's fun and it's beautiful and whatever. And if it's not, take a break. I mean,
Yeah.
we can do that too.
It'd be interesting. Like, what if it's, the irony of, we're taught to dream when we're little, right? To believe in all of this stuff. We can be anything. We can go to the supermarket dressed up as a princess. And then we're taught to not. And that it's actually like, even in the book, it talks about the purpose, right? Like, people have this desire to have purpose. And maybe that's just that desire to belong to ourself again. And that the, oh, the cultural way things flow of unattaching from our dreams actually puts us in pursuit of in pursuit of them, right? This illusionary thing. So what if we just kind of supported people dreaming throughout their life? I wonder if they would feel more connected to their purpose.
Yeah, and I mean,
And
can't our purpose change? Like, can't we?
yeah,
Like, I feel like purpose, it's such a pressure-filled word because it's like, what is my life's purpose? And maybe your purpose right now is to enjoy the sunshine outside. Maybe, right, to me, it's meaning. Where are you finding meaning and infusing meaning in your life? Because it's always available. So can we take the pressure off? And even dreams, like, I love that word, dreams. But you know what? If that feels heavy or hard, maybe you can just shift it to, what do I want today? What do I want next year, right? Or whatever feels good, but I don't know, it's so interesting, language, right? We all have different interpretations and meanings that we assign to language. So, like, find things that feel good to you, because I really think the point of all of it is to live fully, to
right.
be present for our lives, for the moments that we're in, and to get excited about what's next. And that doesn't mean it's rosy and beautiful. It means, you know what, Robina, the past year I've had some really sad moments. So you know what? I can be there. I can be there for those moments too. And they have beauty too. So to
Right.
just be here for this precious life that we're given, right?
Yeah.
That we don't know how many we have. I actually think we have many lives, but this precious life will never live again. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, and that's what I was getting at, is this detachment from dreams, big thinking, right? However you want to define it, magic, whatever. I feel like it leaves people potential, maybe, I don't know. I was saying maybe it would, ironically, that looking for purpose, when, like you're saying, really our purpose is like this existence upon the earth and where we are in this moment right now. Like you and I having this conversation, that's my purpose right now, right? And I think it's that when I stop looking outside of myself to find my purpose, and I'm just in myself and like present to whatever it is, like you said, the really hard stuff. Like, I don't know about you, but Mercury retrograde is just kicking my butt right now on the hard stuff. And like, even last night, like my heart was breaking, I was crying. And I was like, okay, but this is happening for a reason, right? Like, okay, what can I take from this? And those things, that is, I feel like, where I'm like, oh, this is the purpose to life right here, is to be living it fully in the present moment, experiencing it, not what am I going to be 20 years from now, right?
Mhm.
Today is so precious. Today
Yeah.
is so very precious.
And Robina, when we live from this place here, we actually are able to be and do amazing things in the world out there, right? The more we're with ourselves and who we are, yes, the more those things. And it's so interesting. And I don't know how you feel, but I feel like, and again, I am always a work in progress.
Mhm.
Okay. But the more that I can be here, like in this moment, it feels so good. And I think that I'm doing things I didn't know I could do. And the doubts just kind of fall away, right? There's a little part of me saying, what are people thinking of you right now? I don't know. You just like cried on the, you know what? Great. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's just that when we show up, going back to, and we have 2 minutes, to kind of be mindful of time.
Went too fast.
Going back to Elevate Alliance is that it's real, it's humanness, it's life. Like tears happen, right? And so it's creating the space where we don't have to edit ourselves into being something else and worrying about what other people will think, and knowing like this is like, I just gotta live my life fully for me. And when I do that, I show up as the best version of myself. And so with that, I feel like that is what you have created with Elevate, to welcome women in and growing their business and their dreams, and being mindful of time, because I want to give an opportunity for you to just, share on Elevate. I'll put some information up on here, how people can find you, but, to share what Elevate is doing, and if anyone's interested to come explore more and maybe hang out on the couch with us and have some conversation and join in.
Yeah, it's always good for that. And I have one minor correction, because you said what you have created, speaking to me, and I want to correct and say what we have created. It's all of us, right? Every woman who shows up. So that's the invitation I will extend to any woman business owner or aspiring business owner who is out there and who's seeking that community and connection in this space to dream and work through all of it alongside other brave women. That's what we're about. And we have our next curiosity session on June 13th. I know Robina, well, she's already putting the slide up. You can see some of our beautiful ladies right there. But yeah, check us out. If you go to our homepage right at the top, you'll see a link to how to register for that curiosity session. That's the best way to learn more. It's completely free. And we have so much amazing stuff happening that's really launching in June, at the end of June. So now is actually the perfect time to join us if you feel called to do so.
Yeah. And if anyone is, I'm excited to meet you in the future. And even if not, if Elevate Alliance isn't, the right place for you, I believe that there is a community out there for you that would be ready to welcome you. Or maybe it's you creating one of your own. Who knows?
Love
But if
that.
you have any questions on that, don't hesitate to reach out. And of course, if you're wanting to kind of discover how you can be connected to a community like Elevator, perhaps bring Sarah's magic into your company and to create the leaders that she's talking about that will really, I believe, transform the future of public accounting. I've believed that for a long time. And I think that's where Sarah and I kind of connected from the get-go, is reach out to Sarah, find out about more about Elevate Alliance or Intent to Lead, and how her and Brian and their team can support you in what you're building. So, as we close, I want to say thank you so much, Sarah. I could spend probably a whole day just having these kind of conversations with you, and I look forward to doing that with you one day. To everybody who is out there listening or watching, whether you are with us live or in the future, I'm so grateful for you, and I thank you for your support in this and supporting you and going after what it is that lights you up, that makes today the best day that you can have, to help you move toward those dreams and maybe let go of that bar we were talking about and transitioning into the other, knowing that there is a community to support you and be that safety net underneath when you fall, if you fall. But I believe that you will fly and catch that other bar. So again, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. And until we meet again.
Thank you, Robina. I love you. Thank you.
I love you.